This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 121, The Long-Term Value in Following Your Plan. Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan or any plan to help you get there? Well, then you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. Now, to help you get started in a more strategic, which means a better direction. I wish somebody kicked me in the tail and helped me do this early on. I have created a free jumpstart course for you that will just frame out how to be strategic in the real estate agency business. And that's waiting for you at freeagentgift.com. That's freeagentgift.com. Look, I am a longtime top producer, broker owner, coach, and I adhere to that same plan to this very day as I'm recording this, okay? So go get a copy of it for yourself. I want to give it to you. It's my way to give back to this industry, whether you do nothing more than just listen to me on the podcast. So I'm not looking for anything. I'm just looking to help you, okay? freeagentgift.com. All right, let's get going. The long-term value in following your plan. Like I say, if you're a long-time listener to the Realty Classroom podcast or a first-timer, it doesn't matter. You're going to find that a very core common theme with me is to talk about the power of a plan. Because I don't come out of the womb as an entrepreneurially spirited type who just loves to sit down and plan. I don't wake up every day saying, I just can't wait to manage the heck out of my business. I don't. If you're like me and you're a salesperson or a sales-oriented person who got into this business because you just quote unquote wanted to sell something, great. But there's a problem in that. You can generate the revenue, but there's no plan. So there are some really inherent problems in that I learned along the way. I've had to change the way and really change. I have really worked hard to change my perspective, thanks to the book by Michael Gerber, where you get 3 visions. 1 is the entrepreneur, 2 is the manager, which is absolutely infantile in most of us, and then the technician who actually does the work, the sales, etc. There's a lot of technical work, but especially the sales. And that gave me the sense that a plan could come really, or you could start a simple plan from just a change in perspective. So without being too heavy, that's the best way to go about planning, because I know most of you will shut down when you hear that word, but you won't shut down when you listen to this. I know, because you're listening, right? All right, here we go. All you get is Groundhog's Day without a plan is the first thing I wrote down, because I start to think about all the top producers that I teach. And when they come to me, it's really, I haven't done anything to really formally promote my one-on-one coaching. So when they come to me, they're typically referred by somebody in the group already who's empathetic and said, oh man, you are ready and you need help. That's what it's like. It's like top producer therapy at the Realty Classroom mastermind level. Because when they come in, they're a mess because they've already tried this. By the way, it's impossible to coach somebody whose ego is still on the run that they're right and that it's more leads. And I'll get into that here. So I actually have to have them come to me broken and humbled by the process of repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a business to emerge. Doesn't work. Never happens. I know a lot of you top producers might listen to this and you'll push back and, well, I've got a $5 million business. Yeah, I'd love to see your income statement and I'd love to see what you're spending to get that $5 million. And I'll guarantee you, I know people that do $1 million, $600,000 that make as much money as you do. I've seen the math. I've been a long-time coach and I have my own math to look at too. And I know how expensive it can be when I don't have a plan. You can't keep fiscally responsible without a plan. And that's business 101. Go down to Wall Street, go try to, get venture capital money. You'd be laughed out of the building without some semblance of a plan. All right. So what do you mean by Groundhog's Day without a plan? Well, I remember the movie. And all I can remember is the premise. It has Bill Murray in it. And it's like every day he wakes up, it's the same thing over and over and over and over. Einstein talks about this thing too. He says you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. Okay, so enough funny takes on it, serious takes on it. Without a plan, you might be able to do better. You can grow. I mean, I remember when I first started, I really worked my tail off at selling, and had that phone blowing up in my hand all the time, was losing my life to the business. That's why I say at the opening of the podcast, you're an entrepreneurially spirited agent who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, right? I mean, that's the whole concept. I want a business that serves me, my family, and my lifestyle. And I want it to serve my clients at the highest level. I want it to serve the public that bumps into it in the night at the highest level. So that's a lot. I mean, that's a big statement. To go out there and say something like that is a big statement. So you need a plan to do that. All right. So don't just keep repeating over and over what you're doing. Stop. And the concept that Gerber talks about is working on the business. You have to stop and work on your business. And if you're sitting around wondering, like, how come I don't have more business, or how come that guy or that gal in my office has more? Because they, somewhere along the line, whether they did it consciously or unconsciously, agents work on the business. And they write down simple checklists, which become part of a plan that they repeat. And they do better than you do if you don't sit down and work on your business. You can't always just work in it, meaning when somebody refers you and you call that person and all of a sudden you're working in it. That's not working on it. On it is sitting in a quiet spot like my little studio office here, thinking about this. And I'm actually working on it right now with you because I'm going back at what just happened this week, and I'm thinking about all the coaching I did one-on-one, all the group coaching, and all the myriad deals. I am involved, I think, in the negotiation of, I think it's 5 or 6 deals right now for my own book of business, let alone my agents calling me for help with theirs as well. So there's a lot going on, and this is all chunked up to work on it. I have to take this break, and I have to think through this a little bit, and I have to organize it. Because what I'm doing while I'm sharing with you is I'm reminding myself, and I'm training my management brain to think, don't just do what you always do. Get up above it is what I like to do. I like to get up above my business, look down at how it's happening, and at each module, whether it be marketing, conversion, closing, past client module, and then for expansion, for recruiting and measurement, working with all the numbers folks that are involved with me. And I say numbers folks, I could say bookkeeper and CPA, but there are others too. And just looking at each one of those modules and asking myself as the manager, which one of those needs a plan tweak, okay? But let me take it away from what I do. And if I were to start over again, here's what I would do. I would start with the way to be the simplest planner. Okay, I would just be very simple. And what I would do, because I always refer to this as an assembly line. I think the whole Napoleon Hill Law of Success book really struck me when I started to consider what he was saying, that he had studied certain people, and one of the greatest influences that he had was Henry Ford. Well, Ford is famous for beating on the assembly line and making all these little micro tweaks to the assembly line. And over time, the evolution is staggering. It's just stunning what happens because they get one plan. So I said to myself, well, wait a minute. If you're starting any business and you're in it already and you're going to do one deal where you're working in the business, get up above that one deal. And even if you have to go back in time and think about it, think about, well, how did you initially get them? I always say to my clients, my coaching clients, what was the genesis of this relationship? Where did it birth itself? Because there's a clue about marketing in that moment. So see, what I'm saying is, if we just, and by the way, Einstein talks about this in his whole approach to the discovering the theory of relativity, where he talks about imagining himself riding along a beam of light. Pretty cool, right? That's simple. So I imagine myself riding along this transaction with my client. I take myself all the way back to the genesis, and I say, well, that's some semblance of marketing. Even if in the beginning it doesn't feel intentional, well, if I make it intentional, I make it planned. See how easy that is? Watch that. I go back in time and I say, well, Sally referred me Jim, and then I called Jim and I qualified Jim and I started the process. Well, what did I do to affect Sally that Sally would think so strongly about me as a professional? Oh, Sally tells me that she watches all my blog posts about the market updates and that she really likes them and she's never seen anybody do it. Okay, good. Then I have some semblance of an understanding that maybe I could be more intentional about my social media posting of my market updates. That's an example, right? So you just go back to the beginning of that one deal, and now you come in next and say, okay, when I picked up the phone, how did I qualify Jim? What did I ask him to determine that Jim was a real seller, a real buyer? Did I have a checklist of questions that I went down? Or if I did remember some of them, why don't I just go back and say, well, I think I asked him this, this, and this, and I write them down. You see, what you're doing is you're simply documenting what you're doing. That's the best way to begin a plan. And it's not fake it till you make it. I mean, that's kind of a corny saying. It's like, well, you stumbled. It's more like a yard sale. You made a mess, but you still got it to the end. Go back and clean up the yard. And think about, well, what did I do? Well, I wasted my time. I don't know why I took them down that path, but this thing was good. Write that down. Document. So now you documented how it was marketed, how it was converted. And then when you got into closing, did you do it yourself? Did the company have a closing coordinator? Was it an attorney that helped? Document. Which parts of it were good? Which parts of it weren't? Were there other people involved who caused you problems, who made it easier? You're just documenting that one story. Now, again, my recommendation is marketing is one module. Conversion, moving them from lead to prospect to client, another module. Closing, how you cared for them during the closing process. And past client, are you doing anything for them intentionally now? And that's the word that keeps coming up. Intentional means planned. If I do it serendipitously or things happen serendipitously, I don't know where he came from. I hear that all the time. I'm like, well, sit down for a second and work on your brain. Go back and remember. Don't say, I don't know. I don't know where he came from. I'm not sure what I did. Come on, that's lame. By the way, I hear it from top producers. I don't know how I do what I do. Okay, so sit still and think about one transaction out of the 50 you just did last year. Think about one and take me back through the narrative. And while we're doing it, you document it. And while we're doing it, you bookmark it against the plan I gave you. Hello, freeagentgift.com. Get over there and get started. That's the semblance of order of things. It's not perfect, but it gets you thinking about, okay, what's this guy talking about? Right? And so you get to backdrop it against some sort of a wireframe where now the next thing you know is that you have a little playbook, a little planned out process so that, and then you can segment one different from buyers versus sellers. And that's the simplest way to do it. So document the path of one deal on a buy side, but document the path of one deal on the sell side. Next. Plans work. You're not going to believe this, but when you actually get intentional and you go back and try to repeat these marketing behaviors that birthed these deals and try other ones at the same time, it will work. Because you're intentional. Because you're not sitting at home, or around the water cooler going, oh, it's a seller's market, and these buyers are all this nonsense. What does that even have to do with you? Sit down and think, what can I do intentionally today to market my services so that somebody knows that I'm even out there, ready, willing, and able to give away my best service for free, to help them look at some houses, to help them try to figure out what this is worth, to help them figure out what to do and not to do to their property. There are so many things that you could do to market yourself that are simple, right? And they will work. And then you'll convert those people and you'll sell them again. And what will happen is pretty quickly, you probably have a couple, 2, 3 deals that you're working at all different stages. One person definitely is getting help, but they're out a little bit longer. Somebody comes in and needs all the attention right now. And now even 3 deals or so at once for a single agent can feel like chaos. And so what we begin to do is we sort of fall under the pressure. Like, oh my gosh, I've heard this from coaching clients. Oh yeah, I'm all set now. The plan's working. What? You're all set now? I don't even know what that means. I mean, why? Did somebody come and write you a check for your business? There's no such thing in business as all set. What it means is that you now have new challenges because the basic plan worked. So you have these new and higher level challenges of managing multiple pathways at once. And for top producers who are planned, my gosh, we have multiple levels of things going on. So now we've had to bring in new softwares perhaps because the checklisted stuff got burdensome. We couldn't just do it on a Google sheet. We had to do it in a sophisticated CRM, or we couldn't do all the conversion ourselves. So we had to hire telemarketer / inside sales agent, or we needed a client care manager to run around with a few of the buyers and help the sellers through their process. And we had to hire a closing coordinator. See what I'm saying? The pressure that comes next when you begin to get intentional is that there will be other services that you need to lean into. Software and people, I would probably say, or technology, I'll bundle that. Technology and people, you'll have to adjust during that growth. But again, if everything is being documented, let me give you an example. If you document your closing process, and you have a good closing process. Okay, when we go under agreement, I have a checklist, I've handwritten it, then maybe I put it in digital format and I go down it. But I just can't personally do them all myself. So now you go to the company, and the company has a closing coordinator you can pay by the deal, and you go over to them and say, look, I'd love to do business with you, but you must follow my system. And here's my checklist, because I'm going to pay you to do this. You can look at this. Now, of course, if you have a system and I've forgotten something, or you think something's wrong here, let's sit down and talk. That's a perfect example of you needing a closing coordinator suddenly, and then all of a sudden still going to them, not just abdicating and hoping that they take care of this critical moment in time, crossing T's and dotting I's for your client who you're hoping to birth into your past client module where they're likely to repeat and refer. Well, if you just throw it off on somebody and abdicate and run away and run back, but I have to go do the marketing and the convert. Yeah. Just make sure you take your documentation, give it to the closing coordinator, tell the client that you're moving them off to the T crosser, the I dotter, but that you're right there and that you're at the end of the phone. See, that's how this plan begins to grow into what? A business. A business, he whispered. Right? That's how it grows. Into a business, because now you're able to do business, even if it's just 2 or 3 at once. It's an exciting moment in time. And if you're a top producer and you know, you've got hives all over your face, by the way, real thing, because the pressure of all of this, how will you keep up? How will you ever do this? How will you ever raise your family? You know, what will happen in the next recession? Should I all of a sudden do REOs and bank loans? I hear this every single week. Do you understand that? These are real anecdotes. And worse, I see new producers say, oh, I just knew I wasn't going to be good at this. No, you're not listening. You're not listening. You're not executing a plan. It takes time to get a plan going, but the more time that you can put in the front end, like marketing and conversion, the more opportunity you have for client care and closing, right? You must go to work, but you must go to work with the plan. All right, let's move on to the next point here. A plan positions you to take advantage of upswings, but also to grow in downturns. Let me explain this now, okay? See, I've been working on being a planned out agent and agency for many years. But there have been times where I've been slow to adjust my plan based on digital change, or my perspective wasn't there, or I wasn't consistently and always every single week working on it. Sometimes I would get caught up and be transactional and just try to get those transactions. Well, it turns out the tail then wags the business dog. What do I mean by that? Well, look, when things are good, and ironically, in one of my marketplaces, we cover 2 that are very diverse, downtown Boston and Cape Cod. Well, Cape Cod's always been the laggard compared to Boston, where, there's tremendous wealth and people have to be there. But when the pandemic hit, all of a sudden people wanted to get away from the city, and the Cape Cod market has exploded, especially at luxury. So that's an upswing. Okay, so any realtor who's actually working is going to get caught up in the upswing, and everybody's going to do more in business. But I was ready, because of working on my business, to take advantage of luxury. And I had been working on that. And we have had the best run with luxury property listings, especially, than we've ever had, because we were positioning ourselves for years to be that. I mean, probably 36 months. We have worked very diligently to be in front of luxury listings. We've gotten them. They've turned into multiple accounts. They've attracted high-end buyers. And the margin is just through the roof when you can even mix in a little bit of luxury. And when I say luxury, a lot of you don't get intimidated by that. Just start off at the median or the average number in your area and keep shooting in there somewhere. Okay, it's a better business. But for those of you that are top producers that keep going down the other way, and you can't wait to just keep, trying to get leads. So all your language and your marketing up front is all this ugly discount this and, properties under this and distress this. I did that for years. It was a massive mistake. Massive. Just a massive mistake. I don't even know how to say massive bigger than the word massive. It was a huge, massive, ugly mistake. shoot right down the middle from beginning to end, wherever you are, meaning beginner to top producer. Shoot down that middle so that no matter what happens on the outside, we have a recession, we have a pandemic, and it causes an upswing or a downswing. With a plan, your adjustment is easy. You see, when things go wrong, there are a lot of people that own a median or above house that have to sell or decide to sell. And if you're positioned there as a professional all along because they can see that your plan's been out there, your market updates, you're acting and walking the talk, and you're not hiding in the, in the back room, you're out there, well, then there's a flight to quality. They come to you, right? And in the upswing, you just get your fair share. I really, 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 really would tell you, though, the downturns, that's the spot where a system just can make you can survive it without the stress, right? Because you just look at the math, because you're planned. Okay, here comes the recession, here comes the election, here comes the interest rate tick up, whatever it is that cools it off. People still have to. They have to sell, and they have to buy for whatever reason. And with a plan, you can see that coming, and you're already well positioned to take advantage of it. All right, let me summarize this. It's a common theme here at the TRC podcast to keep talking about plans, because I just can't emphasize enough that working on your plan should be a weekly occurrence, because in the long term, you're actually growing a real business because of the plan. I know, I live this. I'm not one of these pontificators from a soapbox telling you what to do, and I've never sold a house. I'm in the middle of 5 negotiations right now. I'm running an agency. I'm coaching 41 top producers one-on-one. Well, you can't even get me on Mondays and Tuesdays. Every half hour, I'm like a doctor talking to them. Multiple group coaching. And I'm so deep into this, I started a website company to get that part of the technology right. And I have 5 kids and I'm not divorced, okay? I do it all because of a plan. All right? So I'm the living, breathing thing, hopefully that you can copy to some semblance. Do it, you do you, but I mean this whole idea of being planned, all right? Grows out a better life. I'm telling you, this business is serving my life, not the other way around, thanks to this. So remember, the first point is, if you don't do it with a plan, it's Groundhog's Day. It'll repeat itself over and over and over and over. And you'll say, I should be. No, you shouldn't be. Without a plan, you don't deserve anything. So don't think time buys you a business. Next, the simplest plan. Just document the path of one buyer deal, one seller deal. Write down everything that happened that you can remember from the beginning to the end. It's like, you're being asked to come in and being interrogated to remember it all. Document it, and then the next time you go, refine it. And then as you need help, delegate a piece, but have those people stick to it too. Next, plans will work and they'll need to be adjusted during growth. So always be asking yourself what part of your plan is under attack and needs development. That way you don't wake up someday we have to retool the whole thing. You're making slight tweaks along the way. And remember, a plan positions you to take advantage of upswings even better than everybody who gets swept up in it, but definitely protects you in downturns and actually can help you grow during a downturn. All right, I'm going to summarize it this way. The pandemic amongst top producers in real estate is caused by the naive belief that sustainable growth comes from more leads, when in fact, without systems in place for a whole business approach, more leads will actually eventually sink the ship or really hurt profit margin. All right, now remember, I'm going to say this again. You can take immediate action and get started in a better direction if you simply go over and get our simple business plan starter over at freeagentgift.com. Okay, freeagentgift.com. Can only lead the horses to water. I hope you drink. Also, don't drink that good stuff. Yeah. Don't drink. You get it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. We do our best to stay on the bleeding edge of where they are posted. We also broadcast our live sales training calls on Facebook and YouTube every Friday at 1 o'clock EDT. So remember, please turn on the page, channel notifications, the bells, the whistles, whatever it takes for the Realty Classroom. The Realty Classroom. So you won't miss all those reminders. We'd also appreciate it if you would comment on any of these posts. I mean, I'd love to do a podcast based on feedback. I know you're all busy. I know you're all shy. I know you listen to this because I can see the downloads, but I'd love interaction. And if I get it, I will deal with questions. Okay. Thanks for listening. But remember what I say, nobody's coming for you. So go get to work on your business. And I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening.